Well, too often, the only loving adult in a child's life will be the adult in a classroom. In our continuing conversation with Alton Carter, he discusses the role teachers played in shaping his life despite his challenging them every step of the way.
As a kid, to be loved and cared about seemed foreign to me. And so that's what I was rejecting, because being cared about or treated like you were somebody special was odd. And so when those things would happen, I would literally flight would kick in. And so my behavior my bad behavior would come out just to keep them in arm's distance.
In fourth grade, Alton pushed one teacher past her breaking point. She drug him from the classroom, intent on the banishment he felt he deserved. But during the commotion, a teacher named Brenda Thompson stepped in.
That was probably the first time I felt like I was worth something. In the fourth grade, this teacher that was not my teacher stood up for me and said, "I'll take Alton," when another teacher decided she'd had enough of my bad behavior. I had a ag teacher, Mr. Jennings in Perkins, who he treated me like I was everyone else. Almost like a son, that he did everything he could to make sure I was successful in ag, and so that was wonderful. Showing the animals was a huge part. Like I said, there were times I would look at myself and see myself as the only black kid sometimes at these shows. And really nobody ever treated me different. And that's really probably one of the first times I got to see that the things that my family told me about white people were not true, that most of the kids in FFA didn't see me any different. They didn't treat me any worse than anything else. And I entered a speech competition, and those things helped me so much, and it built confidence. I'm telling you, I was scared to death the first speech, and again, people treated me like I was everyone else, and it just made a huge part. It built confidence in myself when I needed it most. Had a couple of coaches in Cushing, so I had a couple of football coaches. They just did everything they could to encourage me. They held me accountable. When I wanted to quit, they would talk me out of quitting because things didn't go my way. I also had a lady named Leona Johnson, who was a neighbor when I lived at my grandma's house. She was trying to get me to read, and I did not read well growing up. That was just something we didn't do. We didn't read it at home. I don't remember having grandparents or uncles or aunts, anybody read to me as a child. And so I literally stumbled upon her trying to mow a yard, mow grass, and she said, "Hey, I want you to read. If you're gonna mow my yard, essentially you're gonna read." And then so every time I'd come mow, she'd make me read a couple of chapters. In fact, gave me a book to take home to read. And when I'd come back to mow, she would, like I said, we'd sit down and she would go over it to make sure I understood what I was reading. And so things like that, I know, just made the biggest difference in my life, that a little bit at a time, people were pouring hope into me.
Today, Alton works to be that same positive influence for children he meets. After a stint as a police officer, he now serves as Director of Youth Ministries for the First United Methodist Church in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
I will serve you. I will go wherever you go. It's hard, but we just have to care. A kid like myself or a kid like that, they want to know more than anything else that someone cares about them. And it's foreign. Sometimes it may be foreign to have someone care about you, but sometimes when you're seeing kids who are having issues, there's something deeper. And a lot of times we just want to, discipline or write a kid off because they're acting bad, when really they're crying out for help. They want what every kid has to be loved and to feel like they're important. Sometimes we have to get to know kids. Sometimes we need to have conversations that are difficult or figure out what it is can we do. Living in a house, one of my foster homes was in Boley, Oklahoma, and it wasn't much, but I was safe and being fed. And that's what kids need. They need to feel safe. It's not about a fancy home. They need people who care about them, and I needed to be trained on how to love people and how to treat people. And that's the overall thing that kids need to learn. And when foster parents are not doing that, they shouldn't be allowed to be foster parents.
In terms of looking at that system, public, private, do we need more partnerships? Do we need more growth? Need more resources applied to this issue?
We need more everything. I mean, we need funding, we need foster parents, we need caseworkers. The whole system needs a lot more people. You know, I graduated from high school out of a foster home and I had no support system whatsoever. I had nothing to go to. So I go to college. I got to watch every kid go home to visit. They got, you know, care packages and I was all by myself. So I lasted a semester and came back to the worst environment ever. I had to live with my mom. But I was so lonely, it had nothing to come back to. I was out of the system. And so I kind of fell off the wagon and not so much making bad choices, but I was doing nothing. I looked back at my income tax, and for that year, after I left college, for one whole year, I made $769 a month and was trying to help take care of my mom living in an efficiency apartment that was infested with roaches. But there was no support system, and my fear that I was going to turn out like everyone else in my family is what drove me to get out and start working at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's and would, you know, back then they had the hamburgers that were labeled a time, they'd put stickers on them. And after a certain time, you threw those hamburgers in the trash. Well, I was working at McDonald's and I was sacking those things up and taking them home so I could feed my mom and myself because we didn't have anything.
Eventually, he returned to school and earned a sociology degree from Oklahoma State University. From there, he set out to improve the lives of children like himself. But in many ways, he was still carrying the burden of those bricks.
I was at a Lions group speaking, and I told about, you know, the Boys Ranch and us carrying bricks, and in the back, a guy named Gordon Sloggett, who was a Lions board member when I was at the Boys Ranch. And he said, hey, Alton, I want you to know, in the whole group, he said, I want you to know that I bought those bricks so no other kid would have to carry a brick again. And there was a part of me at that moment that sunk. I mean, my heart just felt like it almost stopped. And it was a sense of relief that he had put a stop to that. And so after the meeting was over, he said, hey, jump in my car. I want you to come to my house. And so I go to his house and we get out of the car, and there, all those bricks were a patio and a sidewalk around his house. And it was probably more overwhelming than I would care to admit. Emotional tears running down my face that although I'd carried those bricks, I knew that no other kid was going to have to suffer that punishment anymore. And there was a part of me that started letting go of that pain and suffering from the memories of those bricks. And before I got in the car to leave, he said, hey, I want you to take one of these bricks if you want one. And so I picked up a brick and put it in my car and drove, you know, about down the street and had to pull over because I was in so much tears. And I don't think Gordon knew what he was doing for me, but he began to help me heal from something I had literally been carrying my whole entire life.
I want to thank Paul and Ann Milburn.
Today, the Oklahoma Lions have set their sights on helping a broader group of children and transitioned to a new operation called Meadows of Hope.
We saw children in DHS custody young, and we couldn't serve them until they were teenagers. And we had boy after boy come in to our program that would tell us about their brother or their sister that they didn't get to grow up with. And so our board decided that we wanted a place where brothers and sisters could grow up together. And that turned into the Meadows of Hope.
Rather than a single group home, these homes, and potentially many more, will be provided to certified foster parents and at least 4 children per home. The idea is to build a supportive community where these unique families can lean on each other.
They're just normal people. They have jobs in the community, and they just wanted to serve more kids. And having a home that's large enough, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 2,600 square feet, gives them that opportunity. But more than that is the support of other foster parents on this campus.
Alton Carter was invited to speak at the dedication of Meadows of Hope and used the opportunity to continue the healing alongside the Boys Ranch organization.
The one thing I thought would be appropriate, and it's hard not to get emotional, but I want Brian to come back up here, and I want to give back the brick that Gordon Sloggett
Bricks. Here they once symbolized futility and fostered hatred. But today, the bricks and mortar of Meadows of Hope provides safety, security, and a sense of belonging to children in desperate need.
Well, currently, Oklahoma is in the third year of a 5-year court-ordered plan to improve the lives of 10,000 plus children currently in state custody.